What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video going over Fanduel's Super Bowl Showdown. I did DraftKings yesterday, so if you guys are interested in that, you can go check that video out. But today we're breaking down Fanduel. Now, DraftKings obviously the more popular DFS site for football, but Fanduel is still up there. Especially their $1 million contest is usually always cheaper. DraftKings is about $20 per entry, and FanDuel is about $5. Yet the payout for non-first place is usually lower on FanDuel, but it's still $1 million to first place on both sites. So automatically, the first thing I see is the pricing. Patrick Mahomes more expensive than Jalen Hurts on FanDuel at 17.5. Hurts at 17. So just right off there is a difference. So let's go down here to the values. So FanDuel is a little bit different than DraftKings on values. You only have 5 players. You get more salary. So I feel like it's not as crucial to find values, but it still matters. So we'll go and talk about that. So on FanDuel, I would consider everything smaller than the defenses and kickers, which on FanDuel is 8K. So Boston Scott, running back for the Eagles on a 3-touchdown streak, gets some volume, but I think he's too much compared to some of the other guys that are down here. I think as far as value goes, for Eagles players, like he's probably there. Quez Watkins obviously going to be on the field a lot, and paying $6,000 is maybe there, but I still don't want to justify that. He just hasn't produced that much. Has a very tough matchup against Kansas City, and I rely upon AJ Brown and Devontae Smith more. So Boston Scott at 7,500 is probably the value again on FanDuel as it is DraftKings for the value. Kadarius Toney is a huge value on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. They have him at 7,000. Depending on the injury report, I can't imagine that he's out Sunday. I imagine they're going to play him. How much volume he's going to get, how many snaps he's going to get. Now, that is a true question. Obviously, on FanDuel, he's a lot more playable at his price than DraftKings. DraftKings is kind of mid. FanDuel, he's on the lower side of pricing, so it's a little easier. But yeah, 7,000, it's a good price for him. Edwards-Helaire here at 6,500 against Philly. I'm very interested to see how much work he gets, if any. Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon have held it down at the running back position respectfully. And I'd rely upon those guys to get a majority of the volume, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get Edwards-Helaire in there a little bit. And then Sky Moore, Justin Watson, I mentioned both of those guys yesterday. I'm going to mention them again today. Both guys are playable, especially at the prices of 6,000 and 5,500. Yet again, don't expect them to get a lot of snaps, but I imagine they're going to get in the game, especially if Kadarius Toney is banged up and not expected to get a full workload. I would expect Sky Moore and Justin Watson kind of to split snaps, but we'll see how that goes. Both of them, I think, are playable if you're playing a lot of lines. And then we get to, I mentioned yesterday, I'll mention today, Noah Gray and Blake Bell at 55 and 5,000. So at the very bare minimum of pricing on FanDuel, these guys are both, I imagine both are going to get in the game. I mentioned it yesterday. I would expect Gray to get in more than Bell, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bell gets in. Just look at both these guys with how good Philly's rush defense is for these guys not to get some volume, and Kansas City to run a 2 tight end formation quite a bit if Philly starts putting a lot of pressure on Mahomes. So look at those guys' values. So we go back up. I mentioned the price difference here. And then Travis Kelce at 14,000 isn't bad, especially when A.J. Brown is 12.5. Like, I'm interested by the end of the video, the lineup we kind of build together. Travis Kelce, you can go back and look at his numbers. Really relied upon from Patrick Mahomes. And with the uncertainty of the Kansas City wide receivers, we really haven't seen anybody stand out as the dominant wide receiver one. Juju has appeared to be in that role at times. MVS good playoff game out of him, but no one's really stood out as that true wide receiver one for Kansas City. So it's pretty much a toss-up of who's going to perform in this game. But one thing is for certain is Travis Kelce is going to get volume, and he's going to make it good. And his price at $14,000 is good. And I mentioned A.J. Brown at $12,500 is a very good price. I like A.J. Brown a lot for Sunday. He's one of those guys to where I think this is his moment. When they need to move the ball down the field, if they need to, if what some people think is, hey, Kansas City gets a lead, and then they just move the ball down the field, is Philly going to be able to respond to that? And I expect A.J. Brown to be a big piece in that pass game. So I really like A.J. Brown. Miles Sanders, I do not like at his price, even on Fanduel as well, when you could pay $3,500 less for Kenneth Gainwell, who's gotten a lot of volume as well. Miles Sanders obviously is the RB1 for now, but Kenneth Gainwell has gotten work in the pass and rushing side of it. Devontae Smith, if you can't get $1,000 to get A.J. Brown, if you're off by 1,000 or 500, whatever it is, how much you're off, I would definitely be okay with playing Devontae Smith at $11,500. Another really good piece for that Philly offense. He's played very well when he has to. Obviously, we haven't seen it this much in the playoffs because they haven't really needed to. But in a game like Sunday, which I expect we see some points on the board, even with the good defenses here, Devontae Smith is another good piece. Isaiah Pacheco, as of right now, is the running back I'd go for Kansas City if you wanted to pick one at $10,500. Obviously, McKinnon's $1,000 cheaper, but Pacheco gets a lot of that rushing work. McKinnon gets in on those third down and those passing situations. So on FanDuel, it's a lot different because you don't get the full PPR. So Isaiah Pacheco kind of stands out a little more. But Jerick McKinnon's still not a bad play either. Dallas Goedert here at $10K. I mentioned that I like Dallas Goedert in this matchup. He is Kansas City's not been great against tight ends. I think they're top 5 for touchdowns allowed to tight ends. And we've seen Jalen Hurts kind of rely upon Dallas Goedert in those third down situations, clutch situations to go to Dallas Goedert. So at $10,000, Dallas Goedert's another piece that I really like. The defenses I'm not really interested in. I could see the Eagles' defense being playable with how good their secondary is. How good their defense is as a whole. And we've kind of seen 2 years ago of what a good defense can do against Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs team, although there were injuries on the tackle situation, so it's a whole lot different situation here. But if I were to pick a defense, if I had to pick a defense and get some exposure to one, it would be Philadelphia's defense. Juju here at $9,000. I mentioned it's very risky to pick any Kansas City wide receiver, but I do think Juju is the guy to go to if you're going to pick one. His numbers aren't fantastic, but I believe in a situation like this, Juju stands out to me. Kenneth Gainwell, I mentioned a good matchup for Philly running backs, but Kenneth Gainwell just stands out to me as the guy, especially at the price difference. Even if he gets outscored by 1 or 2 points, even 3 points against Miles Sanders, you're paying $3,500 cheaper, so that allows you to get some bankroll somewhere else. Between the kickers, I mentioned Harrison Butker is probably the kicker that I'd go to more. Both these teams are very efficient in the red zone. Chiefs' red zone defense is terrible compared to Philly's, but they're not that far apart. But I would expect Harrison Butker to get some of those points. But I don't know. This could be a game where both those offenses are just very efficient in the red zone. But I'm going to take a chance and get some exposure to Harrison Butker. So that's pretty much it. Do a lineup for you guys and kind of see what we can make off the fly. On this, I like it because there's no price differential in captaining. So let's get Kelce, Hurts, and Brown and see where we're at. So we're at 8,200. And we could go down here, and I mentioned I like Kadarius Toney. See if that allows us to get up to 9,500. We can get Dallas Goedert, which is unfortunate. We don't have Patrick Mahomes. And maybe Kenneth Gainwell. So that's just an example of some guys I like. We're just short of getting Dallas Goedert in this lineup, but yet again, just an example of a line that you guys can make. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. That means a lot to me. And yeah, this is the last DFS video for the year. So if you guys are interested in anything, any type of football content, I will have Dynasty content coming out. So stay tuned to that. I made a couple roster reviews of my own. So if you guys are interested in that, you can go check those out. And I will see you guys in the next one.